Hopefully we are live. Hello YouTube. Hey guys.
Hello.
How you all doing? Hey Jess, you're literally surrounded by three handsome men tonight. That's rare for you over.
I'm a lucky woman tonight.
Yeah, but you have to choose one of us. So who are you going to choose?
Oh, you're on the spot now.
Stay tuned for the whole video,
Sorry,
and at the end I will make my final cut.
Well, guys, we had a bit of an announcement today. We're going to talk about that shortly, but we have to say hello to people that are already in the live chat. Who have we got? I can see Sarah O'Halloran in there. Hey, Sarah. Sarah, someone beat you to our video first last time, so you're back on top today. We've got, I can see Sis, I can see Serdian Gavrilovic. We've got Simple Things. We've got James Lewis, Joanne Johnson. We've got Clavs, Greenins. Hey guys, Simple Things. I'm going to try and guess these languages. Simple Things. Hello, bonjour, dobry den, hola, hello. We've got ESC Manga from Turkey. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're well. I hope you've all had a good week. We're joining you tonight because we have got a little bit of an announcement. Well, it's not an announcement. You've probably all heard the news already. But before we go on as well, we have to say Shana Tova to our followers in Israel and well, all around the world actually. So happy celebrations to you all. We know there's a lockdown being reintroduced in Israel, but we hope you guys are still managing to celebrate as best as you can. And hey Stuart, hey Jess, hey Tommy. So who am I going to put on the spot and talk about Stu? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Tell us about this announcement that we got from the EBU and the Eurovision organisers today.
Well, so basically we've been given 4 scenarios, and they can kind of, what might end up happening is that you might see a combination of the 4 different scenarios that they've put out, but basically they're trying to communicate that Eurovision is going to happen however excuse me, however it can happen. So some of the scenarios that they've brought forward would be the most obvious one would be that Eurovision goes off without a hitch as it normally does, or like, you know, without a hitch in quotations. But, you know, like a full audience, all the participants and all the delegations in Rotterdam to compete, events happening throughout the city and all that kind of thing. Of course,
we can bring them up here actually. So
yes. So basically that's what you see in column A. Column B is basically to accommodate for the restrictions that might be put in place in May, because, you know, again, none of us have crystal balls. We don't really know how it's going to look by the time we actually get there. So there might be a need to do things like restrict the audience in the arena. They might be able to go ahead with some events in Rotterdam, but not all of them. And then there would be some restrictions on the amount of press that they have in the press center. And then basically, as you continue to move down into the C scenario and the D scenario, certain things would have to be adjusted in order to accommodate the situation. One of the most notable kind of aspects of this is the fact that they are actually considering to not have the participants in the Netherlands, which, as we know, is one of the ideas that was floated about before Eurovision was canceled this year. But by the time it actually happened, it was either too soon to implement that kind of thing, or there was just a lot of doubt as to whether or not that could actually happen without it being a truly fair competition. But yeah, so that's kind of like the most extreme case. Basically, it sounds like they're really preparing for every possible scenario, which I think is great news for us.
Yeah, and Jess, a couple of weeks ago when they announced the changes around Junior Eurovision, the question we were all asking is this preparation for Rotterdam 2021? And it turns out it kind of was actually.
Yeah, I think we pretty much potentially have our answer in the event that the world is still not as normal as it should be, as normal as it normally is. But yeah, I think it's good that the organisers have considered everything from the best to the worst and everything in between, because then whatever happens, they're covered.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
and Tom, obviously we're not hoping for option D. We don't want a full lockdown Eurovision next year. We want option A. We're desperate for option A, but I think we have to be realistic as well that we may not get option A. I mean, it all hinges, as they've been quite open in saying, it all hinges on a vaccine and pretty much getting rid of coronavirus by May. So we're hoping for option A, but it's not going to be the likely option at the moment, I don't think.
No, I think, yeah, option A would be obviously what everybody would hope would happen, and Eurovision is as we've always known it. But I think if I was to bet on it, I think the most likely would be B and C, followed by D, and I think A is the least likely. But actually, I'd be quite happy with B and C. I think it's a good compromise and better than we could have hoped for. And I think seeing kind of junior Eurovision in November and seeing how that pans out, it'll kind of give us a flavor of what we could expect. But yeah, I think A is a bit of a stretch goal, but yeah, fingers crossed. But B and C will be a good compromise.
Well, the interesting thing is there's going to be so many more people watching Junior Eurovision very, very closely this year to see what we might end up with in May. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. Stu, have we got anything in the live chat? What are the guys saying?
We do have things in the live chat. This is probably where I should mention that I actually can't bring up the comments as we had discussed before we went to air. So that is going to have to be on you. But Serdian had a good comment at around 3:04.
Let's have a look. Serdian, so we're all hoping for A. Yes, we are. At least B, but we can't know for sure until March. Well, let's pick up on that actually, because they've said that they're going to be announcing which option they're going for in the early months of 2021, which is interesting because as we've found out with coronavirus over the past 6 months, things can literally change within the space of a few weeks. So I'm wondering how they will be able to announce that they're going for option A or option B when a few months later things may be worse in the world and they may then have to look at going with another option.
I think that part of the planning has that in mind, that because we have seen things change so quickly. And as you can see, like on the graphic, they kind of have some of those circles with like the this could happen or this could not happen. So I guess there is going to still be a level of playing it by ear in order to make sure that what they're doing is safe and that what they're doing is actually practical given the circumstances. But yeah, I think that if we do see an announcement of, okay, we're going with plan A, plan B, whatever it is, there's still going to be some like, if this, then this, because I think that's really the only realistic approach to it.
Yeah, I think even within those 4 categories that have been specified, I'm sure there's like 100% more detail and contingencies and alternative scenarios even within those. And I think it'll probably hinge on a whole lot of flexibility between all the people that are involved in terms of like the broadcasters and the participants. I guess they will have to be prepared to, change their plans at a moment's notice or whatever it might be. So, but time will tell, I guess.
What I am really happy about is that they've announced this now. So they've given hope. Although they said that Eurovision 2021 would be going ahead, they said that during the Europe Shine a Light show. They kind of confirmed, but we hadn't heard any real detail about how it was going to go ahead. And the state of the world is so uncertain at the moment that probably a lot of Eurovision fans were fearing the worst and that there may be another cancellation. So I'm happy that they've got this news out there now. They've given us a guarantee, although we still don't know how it's going to go ahead. We know there will be a show. And if you think back to, I can't remember exactly what date Eurovision was cancelled this year, but there was a lot of calls from the community saying, "Well, let people do the show from their own countries. Let's have a virtual contest. There must be some way that you can put this show on." But I think what people forget is it still takes a hell of a lot of preparation. And when you've been preparing for something for so long, to suddenly switch up those plans a few weeks in advance is practically impossible. So there is a lot of planning that goes into Eurovision, let alone planning for 4 different Eurovisions. So the work is really on for the organisers, for the EBU, for the poor TV stations that are organising Eurovision in the Netherlands. I can't imagine the stress they must be feeling, still not know what kind of show they're going to be putting on in May. But anyway, we're glad we've got the announcement. We're glad it's guaranteed. We're glad we're going to get a show. The likelihood that it's going to be the show that we're used to is still pretty much low, I would say. But who knows what will happen in... How long have we got now until May?
Ooh,
8 months?
Yeah, 8 or 9 months or so, I'd say.
It's saying on the Eurovision website, it's saying 246 days until the grand final.
Ah.
So they've started their countdown already.
Oh, well, we can't wait. We just have to say hello to... We've got Kassar in the chat, who, if I remember correctly, you're from Malta. We've got Ben van der Velden. You're in the Netherlands. Hello to you. We've got Simple Things, who's asking a question. How will they do the performances from home countries? Countries like the UK, Sweden, Australia will have big budgets for studios, set. Will every country get the same budget?
It's a good
Well,
question.
every country can't have the same budget. Well, they could. But then when you compare, for example, countries like Russia and Sweden to like San Marino or Moldova, there's a massive difference in what they can afford and the type of show they can put on. So it's possible maybe they might kind of have some, not like a budget limit, but they might kind of give them a similar stage, a similar kind of lighting and props to make it as even as possible, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they could all have the same budget. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, because it's kind of similar to the junior Eurovision situation this year, where they'll kind of be given, the individual countries will be given the specifications of having the same stage. But obviously it's going to be quite different if it's scenario C. And yeah, some people will be performing in the Ahoy and some people in a studio in their own home country. So that's definitely probably not going to be an even standard. But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I think the only way to make it even would be to do it as they're doing for Junior Eurovision, where they're putting out like the parameters for what your studio space has to have, and then in that case, what you'll probably have is they'll be trying to accommodate the broadcasters who don't have quite as much of a budget. So if anything, it might mean that the countries that have more disposable income to invest into the staging and the lighting and all that might have to scale their ideas down in order for it to be a more fair competition. But I think that a question like that, it's a good question, and I think that it's the scenario that they probably want the least. But at least now it's good in a sense that they're preparing for it rather than before, when it was either just too soon to do it or this whole idea of would it be fair, if that was also a factor into their decision making. So
the interesting thing, I'm just going to pull up the list of the different options as well, because that's not only an eventuality in the full lockdown version of Eurovision, because there is the option where some countries may be performing from the Rotterdam arena, some countries may be performing at home. So it's not just, I'll bring up the list here and we can talk about it. So with option C, some countries may be performing from their home studios, some may be performing in the arena. Obviously option D, every country will be performing at home. So it's not just necessarily different countries having different budget, different studios in their own countries, but then how would any of the home countries be viewed against the ones that are performing on the Eurovision stage that may have all the usual glitzy after effects and all the digital stuff that's thrown into a genuine Eurovision performance? So in that sense, you could get a country with a smaller budget that may have an advantage because they're able to travel to the arena and perform on that stage, against a country that will typically have a bigger budget but doesn't have the Eurovision stage and isn't able to produce a performance. So it may be an advantage for some countries that typically wouldn't necessarily have an advantage. I don't know if anything that I've just said makes any sense.
It does
No,
to me. But then also, possibly then in that scenario, they might decide to scale back the actual Eurovision stage in Rotterdam so that people performing in their own countries are not lagging too far behind. That could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them putting restrictions, like if let's say that they have to accommodate whoever has the lowest budget in order for their home studio, in order to make their home studio, I could see them having to make the parameters around that. So that could also be what they implement on the stage. And also notice that it doesn't necessarily say that they would be performing at Ahoy. It would say that they'd be performing in the Netherlands, right? So it might be that the event is operating out of Ahoy, but the performers themselves are actually somewhere else in the Netherlands. Because again, you know, it could come down to the restrictions around how many people you have in an enclosed space are so that they couldn't have all of the people in the, from all the delegations in Ahoy, even if it was just half of them or less than half of them. So I mean, there is just as many questions that we have as there are answers.
But then, from what you just said, though, I don't see the point in countries spending money to send their delegations to the Netherlands if they're not going to be performing in the arena. Why couldn't they just perform at home instead?
Well, yeah, but that could be exactly the case, and I don't know if that kind of semicircle that we see means that some will perform in the Netherlands and some won't, or rather, like it's more like the possibility of having them all there, or the possibility of having them all perform from home. But again, you know, more questions, and asking questions and never have any answers all night.
Yeah. Just going to go to the live chat. So Neil Error is saying you feel Junior Eurovision is a test for option D. I think we probably unanimously agree with you on that. There was speculation as to whether that was the case when the change to Junior Eurovision was announced. We have and Simple Things is agreeing. Sounds like a test run. Karen's loving the positivity from you guys. Glad at least they have 4 plans, which is amazing. And Serdian saying, just happy that Eurovision is going to take place no matter what. Well, we've had a year out. We're desperate for Eurovision. I have to say that Sarah O'Halloran has come up with an option E, which is a puppet version of Eurovision. I'm liking that idea. I don't know whether they've considered that or not. Sarah O'Halloran would like to know, Tommy, are you Irish?
Yes, 100%.
We've got Francesco joining us in the live chat. Hey, Francesco. Neil Error, you're saying delegations never use the same budget already.
Yeah.
A good point, actually. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have more money, that you have a better chance of doing well at Eurovision. So that is a really valid point. Serhat. You can bring him in. We had to bring him in for you, Jess.
I mean, I wasn't going to mention anything, but I mean, he did make top 10 in the televote last year. Just saying.
All right.
Was it sympathy or I don't know.
Who knows?
Now we've got. I wish I could read the alphabet. Whoever you are, thank you for commenting. You're saying option B is the best for now, but will the EBU still earn money if they won't be selling as many tickets?
I didn't think of that.
No.
So the funding, the way that the show is funded is kind of interesting. Like it's definitely a factor, the fact that they wouldn't sell as many tickets if they had to restrict the audience, or even if they had no audience at all. But it's definitely not their only source of income. So yeah, I mean, it would definitely make things more difficult. It would, you know, they'd have to find other ways to pay for things, but maybe that would also kind of contribute to the scaling back of things that that might be necessary in order to make it even anyway.
Mm-hmm. And Clavs is saying TV rights as well. So obviously a lot of money is generated from the TV rights to the contest. Habibi is saying on option C means that some people might perform in their home countries, others will perform in the. So I think they will be performing at the actually on the Eurovision. I mean, they've built the stage, they're building the stage, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they will be. Now, I was reading again about the different scenarios, and one of the interesting things for me was when we were talking about Junior Eurovision, we were talking about whether the performances would be live or pre-recorded. Now, in what Eurovision have released today, they've said that the performances in the countries that are performing at the Ahoy the opening ceremony and the interval acts will be live, which leads me to believe that the performances at home may be pre-recorded, and that may be to allow for some I don't know, effects over the performance, similar to what you might see on a Eurovision stage, kind of digital effects and enhancements. But also, I guess, Stu, you know a lot about TV, but maybe to minimise the risk of technical difficulties as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That would probably be the first real issue, because when you're you're passing over control to all sorts of different studios, it's that much harder to manage. So yeah, it certainly would be the best way to avoid that kind of issue. But yeah, and then it's just also a lot easier when it comes to putting on the program, because rather than having to sync up with these, well, in the case of Junior Vision, it's going to be 13 countries. Is that how many? 13? So yeah, still quite a few people to coordinate with and make sure that they're on the right timing as you. And there's always a bit of a delay, so you never know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, you avoid that all in all, and you're just able to queue everything up and put it on in one go. And then I'm sure that they'll still be able to have the results read out live, and then kind of like how they do the when they're giving the points in Eurovision, and they go to each of the studios, because that's quick and short. They can still have a camera on the kids that are participating when they get their 12 points, so they can say, "Oh, thank you," and all that.
Is that how they do it?
I don't know.
But then going back to the voting, though, if in Eurovision some countries, if the countries that are performing in their own countries is not performing live, would that affect the jury vote? Because normally they have a jury final, so how would that work?
I mean, it would probably just be recorded even further back. So they would have a pre-recorded version, or maybe there wouldn't be as much of a need to have a jury rehearsal, because you can do it in advance, and then you can just show that same recording of the performance to both the jury and the televote at different times.
Yeah, and I guess also if they were pre-recording, they would have to say to the participating countries, you can't do it 50 times and pick your favorite one. You have to do it the same amount of times as everybody else for fairness. So that would be interesting. Yeah.
Well, fairness is an interesting point to pick up on, because obviously when Eurovision is performed in one venue, it's controlled and scrutinised. The voting is scrutinised as well, although a lot of people will say that's not always necessarily fair. But in terms of the staging of a performance, the vocals, etc., everyone's on an even playing field. I wonder how the EBU will manage kind of monitoring that. If you've got lots of people, lots of countries that are performing at home, how will there be the guarantee? I don't know, that the lead vocals are live, for instance. Are the EBU going to have someone in each participating country to check that it's being done fairly? We know that there can be pre-recorded backing vocals for the first time this year, and that seems to really make sense now more than ever. But in terms of the lead vocals, I wonder if there will be cries from people saying, "Oh, Moldova mimed their performance," or what have you. I don't know. How will that be managed?
I mean, I would presume each country would have like a team of people to keep check on things like this, so there's no foul play. But it just depends if they have people in those countries, I guess.
Well, if they're looking for people, we're going to be.
Volunteer.
Me too.
Jess looks good with a clipboard. We've got Newton, who is saying, imagine the winner would be in his or her or their home country studio. How will they do the ceremony there? So, yeah, well, if I'm assuming that we're just going to have a camera fixed on each of the home participants, and it will go to them if they're getting points. I don't know. Maybe there'll be like imitation trophies in each of those countries. Who knows?
Or maybe there'll be like a big Zoom chat, and every country has a little square, and then when they win, they zoom in on that one country.
Maybe.
And then all the losers are booted out of the chat before you left with one word. It's a
Put
good
on
idea,
mute.
actually.
Or maybe they'll just practice their gracious loser face for once, and we can see a bunch of people going.
Okay,
You know what
this
they
is
should do?
option F now. The Zoom contest.
One
On
big
the
Zoom call.
leaderboard, on the scoreboard, they should actually have like the camera view of each of the participants, so you can see them all the way through.
That would be awesome.
Let's have a look. Habibi, you're saying there'll be supervision from the EBUs in response to you. Tommy, Simple Things is saying, yeah, imagine a trophy in each country. Sarah O'Halloran wants to know, Tommy, did you watch Barney and Friends when you were small?
No, but I'm a bit older than when that came out, so my younger brother watched it. But yeah, no.
Habibi's also saying, imagine Montaigne awake at 3. Oh God!
I didn't even think of that.
Oh God, poor Montaigne.
We didn't think of Australia. Anyway, so that's the news, guys. For those of you that have joined us late, we'll just go through the options again quickly for you. So there's been the 4 different scenarios that the EBU are planning for this year. So option A, the one that we're all hoping for, is full Eurovision as planned, as it always has been, full arena, full delegations, full Eurovoxx would be there, the press centre would be open. Option B, which we feel is at the moment looking like the most likely option between B and C, which is a social distanced Eurovision. So all of the shows would still be performed from the Ahoy. All the delegations would travel to Rotterdam. However, the audience would be socially distant, so the seating plan would be different, and the full audience wouldn't necessarily be able to attend. There may be less events at the press centre. Wouldn't have so many press inside. Travel C is a travel restricted Eurovision. So this is where some countries may not be able to travel to Rotterdam. So we would see a mixture of countries performing from Rotterdam, and the remaining countries performing from home studios. And option D is very similar to Junior Eurovision this year, which is a full lockdown Eurovision with every country performing from home. And we have said that there is a chance that we're maybe gonna see a mixture of these different options, especially with B and C. I know another option that was, or an idea that had been floated by fans, was about kind of these outdoor. You've seen these outdoor social distance festivals, as to whether they could still accommodate the people that had originally had tickets, but then maybe they could set up an outside venue where it could be properly socially distanced and people could watch it on the big screen. But I don't know whether that would still be enticing a lot of people to travel to the Netherlands to be part of that experience. So they've not mentioned anything about that. But guys, we have to be positive. We've seen lots of positive comments in the live chat about how everyone, including us, we're just happy that we're going to get Eurovision in some form. It's guaranteed. We don't know what it's going to look like. We're probably not going to know until very near the time. We do have to quickly talk about some of the other shows that were cancelled this year, which was the Eurovision pre-parties. So obviously, you know, we had Madrid, we had Amsterdam in concert, we had London Eurovision party, of course. Are we thinking that it's likely that these events aren't going to be going ahead this year? Obviously, we did see some online events, which was a fantastic job done by the organisers of those pre-parties at very, very short notice. Perhaps we will be seeing similar this year if we're not going to be expecting a full Eurovision.
I think it's unlikely they would happen in person, in real life, but they could be more like online things again.
Yeah, I think it was great to see that, because obviously most of them were cancelled all in all, but Pre-Party España had gone ahead with their online version, and they acted pretty quickly on that. So I think that was a really good thing that they did, and hopefully other pre-parties are looking at doing something similar. What you might end up seeing is that it's actually like the same performance 3 times in a row or whatever throughout the different parties. But yeah, I mean, I think that then everything was so new and we didn't really know how to work around all these things. But now people have been trying new things, and there's like an unlimited amount of possibilities. So I think that at least we would see them digitally, if not in person. Crossing fingers crossed that it could happen in some way in person.
Because I know you were gutted, Tommy, this year that we didn't get to go to London Eurovision party, and you, Jess.
Yeah.
And Stu, we're really hoping, because we were going to meet you in person for the first time this year, and we're still hoping that we can do that in May 2021. Oh, I need to see how tall you are.
Yeah, well, we can compare.
I literally have no perception of your height.
How tall are you, Stuart?
I am 183 centimeters tall.
Which means nothing
What
to
is
us.
that?
What that is.
Oh, you guys, you do feet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm 6 foot.
Okay.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
tall.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I usually when other people ask me, I have to convert to, because we use feet here anyway.
Simple things like your idea of the Zoom results kicking in each country until there's only one. It's like a Eurovision knockout.
Yeah. It's a bit mean, but hey, gets the job done.
BB, so you're saying that EBU would never do an open air Eurovision. They never wanted to do one in the first place. I remember years ago there was talk about if Malta ever hosted the contest, they wanted to do an open air Eurovision, and the EBU kind of ruled against it. But I think what we're talking about, Habibi, is not necessarily the Eurovision itself being open air, but more an event outside for the audience that aren't able to go inside the arena because of social distancing. So maybe a big screen that they could watch outside in a socially distanced way. Joanne Johnson, what about interviews for the performers?
Online.
Mm-hmm.
That's my bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so obviously with not so many press in Rotterdam, you may not be seeing so many coverage, but I think people just have to be clever and think about different ways of doing things. Someone's beat you here. Serdian's a little bit taller than you, Stuart.
How tall are you, Serdian?
Wow, Clav, 197 centimeters.
Oh.
Gonna be looking all the
Like
way
there's
up.
a height wars going on here. I'm just going to leave the chat. I can't compete.
Yeah, I can't compete either. So
You guys can sit on my shoulders if it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is in feet and inches, but I'm going to have to look it up after this. But guys, if you're just joining us tonight, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Go and check out our new website, you can say www anymore, eurovoxx.tv. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, Jess, you're going to sing us out of a little bit of Sir Hat.
Say na na na. Say na na na.
Bad idea. Guys, thank you so much for joining. We will see you all soon. Have a good week, everyone. See ya.